What's going on, guys? It's Moose Friend 3RD, and it is Wednesday, September the 3rd. What's up, Wednesday? Want to make another video for you guys. Now, this is another facet of what makes me personally a nerd. And I know some of you are actually going to be like, how does this make anybody a nerd? But trust me, it does. And for the guys who are going to understand what I'm talking about, they'll probably look at themselves and go, wow, I'm a nerd too. Which is what this is all about, guys. Letting the world know that you're a nerd and sharing that knowledge and that love with everybody. So instead of talking about my weight loss, which is still going on, talking about my guns, which I still love and have, which I actually want to go shooting soon. So if anyone wants to go shooting with me, let me know down in the comments below, and we can try and make something happen here in West Michigan. But what I want to talk about today is bouncing. And when I say bouncing, I mean, yes, a bouncer in a bar. And it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. I was very fortunate to do it for 10 years, and very, very fortunate not to have acquired any serious injury or died doing it. Now, you probably say, well, yeah, you probably didn't work in any rough situations. Not always necessarily the case, but I was one of the fortunate ones that wasn't stabbed, wasn't shot at. I take that back. I have been stabbed. That's a lie. I have been stabbed. I have been cut. But when I say stabbed, I mean like really, really bad. But I'm one of the fortunate ones. I'm one of the guys that went in, did his job, and left it better than I found it in my mind. So I guess I'll start from the beginning, and I'm not going to talk about everywhere I worked. I'm not going to talk about everything I did, but I'm going to tell you kind of my story as a bouncer and what I took away from it. So first off, I started bouncing at 17 years old, and it was honestly to make money. I was bored. I wanted money. I wanted to be able to do things, and I was given the opportunity to work some private parties as security. And then when I turned 18, I got my first steady bouncing job at a gentleman's club in Grand Rapids. Now, it wasn't how can I say this, the most wholesome environment, but I did learn a lot. I did have a lot of fun. I did make some really good friends, some of which I haven't seen in years. So if you're watching this, hey, it's Pork Chop. Yep, Pork Chop. If you don't remember me, probably don't, because I look kind of different. But that was my gig. I mean, I had a day job that I was really good at and I really liked. But every Friday and Saturday night, man, it was time to go to work. It was time to go down there. It was time to make money and have fun doing it. I mean, being 18 years old, let's be honest, who doesn't want to work in a titty bar? It was awesome. Now, after that, I kind of moved around from different spots, doing different fill-in spots for people, and at one point I kind of walked away from it. I thought, you know what, I experienced it, it was cool, it was whatever, and I was good. Well, then a few years later, an opportunity came up for a local nightclub, and I went there on opening night, and the atrocity that I saw. Not going to name names of companies or people involved, but let's just say the staff that they had hired wasn't the most professional. Didn't know the different levels of force or the force continuum or whatever it's called nowadays. It's something to do with like a circle or something. And if you know what it's actually called, put it in the comments below. They didn't understand that. They didn't understand how you evolve in the situation and how it escalates and de-escalates and things like that. So I approached the owner of the establishment, told him who I was, told him my background as far as having a few bouncing jobs, told him that I could take care of myself physically, and that I was willing to come in and work. Well, lo and behold, 24 hours later, not even 24 hours later, yeah, but let's say 24 hours later, I was working. I mean, literally the next day I took a long lunch to go fill out the application, talk with management, so on and so forth, and then that night I showed up, and there was a lot of us in the beginning, and I might as well just call it out because it was a big part of my life. It was S Nightclub. It was a great place. I miss it. I know I'm probably one of the only ones, but I had a ball working there. But there were a lot of us in the beginning. I mean, there were a lot of us. And the cool thing about it was we really kind of got to know who was going to last and who was just kind of there to hang out. Not saying that anybody that worked it with me wasn't good, wasn't a good person, I didn't like, I didn't get along with, I didn't eventually end up hanging out with. But in bouncing, it's just not for everybody. But once we got it down to the core, when I say the core, I mean the guys on the door, and then you had me and two other guys on the main part of the floor, and one extra guy. And then throughout the other areas of the bar, there are obviously more people. But when we got that nucleus of the guys that we knew would work together, we knew got along, we knew that we had each other's back, that's when it became fun. And it's also the first time I got to meet one of my best friends, actually a bunch of my best friends, but one in particular, Hamburg, Dan Jokumsen, R.I.P. He was the mentor. He was the guy, along with his brother Ryan, that was like, hey, you got something, kid. Now shut up and listen. And he took me and a couple other guys under his wing, and I don't even know how to explain what happened, but just hanging out and getting to know them and watching what they did in certain situations, I learned so much, and I know the other guys did too. And at this time, I also met a couple of my other really good friends, and we kind of broke off and did our own thing afterwards, and I'll get to that. But during that time, when our core, our nucleus was together, we were unstoppable. And I'm not sitting here tooting horns and all that, but I'm just telling you how it was. So let's move forward a few years, let's say. I've left S Nightclub, not really bouncing, but still in my heart I miss it. I still love it. I still feel as if that's where I want to be. And then Club Envy opens in Muskegon. And I know I said I wasn't going to name names, but you know what? It was a part of my life, and I feel it necessary that I talk about it because I've never had a bad experience at any of these places. Club Envy opens, and this is where me and my three best friends kind of came into our own, so to speak. We were always those guys that could walk into a bar and we knew exactly what needed to happen. We could walk in and we could understand that somebody needed to be here, here, and here, and then so and so needed to be on the door. Well, after a while, I had been working there, and I mean, it was a great time. It really was. Had a lot of fun. I evolved as a bouncer there. I went from being just a floor guy, just someone who hung out on the floor, walked around, or posted up, to being a door guy. And honestly, being a door guy is what I loved. Loved being a door guy. Loved being able to talk to people. Loved being able to interact, and loved kind of being that first indication of what's ahead as far as bouncing go. As far as the bouncer goes in that bar. And when I say that, if you walk into a bar or a nightclub or anywhere that really has bouncers or security, that first guy is usually the guy that you look at and go, okay, if this guy's on the door, what's waiting for me inside? And it's that mentality that we took into it of, you know what, we're here, we're gonna rock this place. And that's exactly what we did. We had a great time. Had an amazing time, made some amazing friends, some of which I'm still in contact with. Others, life happens, everyone moves on, it's whatever. But that was a great time in my life, going from S to Envy. And then after Envy, the first time, I kind of, once again, took a little sabbatical and just wasn't in it. I didn't have any want to do it. at that point in my life. And then I got a phone call one day asking if I would go work another place. And I said, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll come down and I'll work. And I worked it. And I've already named other names, so I'm going to name another one. I worked at Coral Gables in Saugatuck, Michigan. And that place was awesome because my dad worked there as a bouncer years ago for the same family. But yet again, that was a whole nother evolution of me as a bouncer, because I had worked the nightclubs and the gentlemen's clubs and the fast-paced environments of kind of big city. I don't want to say big city, but that's the best term. Big city bouncing and always being on the lookout, always kind of doing things and having to watch this and watch that and break this up. But at Gables, it was really calm, really chill. Everyone kind of knew everybody. Everybody came in and hung out. And yeah, I had a few problems, but you know what? It's part of the job. And I would say last year was my last year ever. I did pick up a few shifts here and there at Envy when it was still open. I have picked up a few shifts at another bar here locally. But you know what? It's just not the same anymore. And like I said before, I'm going to talk about the evolution of my bouncing career. And at this point, being 28 years old, I miss it still. Yeah, it was a big, big part of my life. But I evolved in such a way that I have the good memories. And I don't want to tarnish the good memories by possibly making any worse memories or bad memories. So I guess the next thing I should talk about is what bouncing taught me. Like what was the overall lesson that I got from bouncing? First and foremost, don't be a dick. I mean, that is number one. You can get your point across, and you can establish that you mean business by just being assertive, be it vocally, be it physically, not violently. But if need be, sometimes you have to get violent. But don't be a dick. Don't sit there and power trip on people, and don't feel that because you have a certain title or certain status that you're better than anybody. I also learned that I have to be patient, and I have to let people have their opinion. And trust me, being a bigger guy and being a bouncer, I have heard every fat joke. I have been called every name you can call a fat person. I have been just berated by people because I was a bigger guy and I was doing my job. So patience. And letting people just yell and scream and hoot and holler. And I mean, going back into my retail career now, I mean, I have customers who like to get loud and just keep bum 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 bum. And you know what? I just stand there like I did as a bouncer, and I just look at them and smile and just nod my head and let them talk. And that's one thing that I think is lacking in today's world, is the fact that if somebody barks at you, you've got to bark back louder, and that's not the case. You can sit there and you can let somebody get their frustration out and let them vent and do that in such a way that it's not going to cause any more issue. And then the last thing that I took away from it, and probably the most important thing that I've gained from my time as a bouncer, is this. I mean, this right here, if you've watched pro wrestling, you know what this is, the Four Horsemen. And that's that group I was talking about. Excuse me for 1 minute, I'm getting a little choked up. This means everything. I found 3 best friends forever. I found 3 guys that I know when my back's against the wall and I have nothing. I have literally nothing. I can turn to them. Not saying that the other friends I made in bouncing and around bouncing aren't significant and aren't important to me, but 3 guys. 3 guys were my rock when I needed it. And that to me is the greatest thing I could ever take from bouncing. Is the fact that I walked in a lone wolf. I walked in somebody who was shy and reserved. And yes, I had friends. Yes, I was social and I was a nice person. But I didn't have that core. And you guys know what I'm talking about. That core of friends that when you really get down to it, those are your ride or die. Those are the guys that are going to be blood in and blood out with you. So to wrap this video up, I'm going to throw it up. And I'm going to say I love you guys. I love you, Diesel. I love you, Tricky. And I love you, Solution. And you can laugh at me for calling them that, but they know what it means. So, let's put the smile back on this big old bearded, beautiful face, if I could ever talk right. And let me know what you think about bouncers. The good, the bad, the ugly. Hell, I don't care. Share your bouncing stories with me. And if you were a bouncer, let me know what you did and what you took away from it, and kind of tell me your story and your journey in bouncing. And as always, do it right below in the comments, guys. And after you do that, let's like it, let's share it, and let's continue to grow this N3RD movement. Because you know what? Without you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. And yeah, I don't have all the views in the world. I don't have all the subscribers. But for those of you who do watch my videos, those of you who do get a laugh out of what I talk about, that's what it's all about. So, signing off for N3RD, it's Moose.